It's incredibly easy for men to be misled when it comes to emotional health because culture right now wants to erase the differences between men and women. And there's also a belief that to be more emotionally healthy, you need to be more feminine. But to be emotionally healthy, you really don't need to forsake your masculinity. It's unbiblical to say that emotional health equals being feminine and, not being emotionally healthy equals being masculine. That's just an unbiblical belief. However, we do, again, need to be careful that we're not mixing in cultural ideas that we think mean emotional health and thus losing our masculinity as Christian men. So this video is not going to be exhaustive. There's going to be so many things I'm just not going to be able to get into because this is a giant topic that I plan on talking about on a regular basis. I hope mental health and emotional health for men is something that we can address a lot here on this channel. So if this is something you're interested in, make sure you're subscribed to this channel. So with that said, here are 4 ways a Christian man can be emotionally healthy without losing his man card. Number 1, only talk about your problems when you know you are prepared to find real solutions. So throughout scripture, we're commanded not to complain. But we're also commanded to share our burdens with other Christians and to seek counsel. So what's really the difference between complaining and sharing your burden or seeking counsel from someone? Perhaps we can tell by how nasally we are when we're talking about it, how flamboyantly we're shaking our hands, we're complaining and whining versus really seeking counsel. But in a more serious way, the way you can really know is the outcome that results after that conversation. What is resulting? Are you just dwelling more and more on the problem and you're not really looking for a solution? That's just complaining. Versus when you are seeking counsel and sharing your burdens, you're going to know that by the road you keep traveling on. You're going to have a better understanding of the problem, which will then help you have a better understanding of the solution. So at the beginning of that conversation, things might look exactly the same when you're complaining versus seeking counsel and trying to share burdens with other Christians. But again, what you do later will show if you're really following the biblical command not to complain and to seek counsel. So for example, after you get talking, you may realize there's nothing to do, that this is just one of those things you have to accept. And that could be a good result from talking about your emotions. Or maybe the person you're talking to then gives you a great solution. Or maybe after talking, you come up with your own solution, because a lot of times just talking about the issue can be very helpful and we kind of figure out what to do ourselves just by expressing what's going on. So all of that can be really good. Again, the main thing you want to avoid is just needlessly talking about your feelings, really because you just want to complain and whine rather than solve the problem. Number 2, watch your motives when you share your feelings publicly. Now, in previous generations, a man could get social points by being stoic and almost seeming emotionally dead. That's a lot of how men received respect in previous generations. And after a long time of women and culture pushing back on that idea in a healthy way, because that can be pushed too far. To be emotionally dead and overly stoic isn't emotionally healthy. But what's happened is, in response to that extreme, we've been pushed to a new extreme. So no longer is it really the main problem for young men especially to be not sharing their feelings enough. What's the temptation now is to overshare your feelings and get social points for crying on social media, being outraged when the newest victim class that society is idolizing you feel is wrong, to be outraged at this and to emotionally have these outbursts. And just to be an emotionally expressive person is now how men are getting social points. So really, it comes down to your motives. We can't say that guy is sinning, that guy is sinning, because each one of us is wired a little different. We don't know what the motives of all of our hearts are when we're sharing emotions publicly. Some guys are just wired a little bit different. They might want to share more or need to share more about their emotions with the world around them. And other guys are perfectly healthy not to do that. And they're good. They don't need to talk about it. It's fine. So it's not really like there's this hard line of that's too much or that's not enough. Like in most things with Christianity, it does come back to the heart. So if you're just sharing your emotions to get pity or to get access to rewards you haven't actually earned, and just to get social attention, that's going to lead to an emotionally unhealthy life. As Jesus warned, beware of practicing your righteousness before other people in order to be seen by them, for then you will have no reward from your Father who is in heaven. Number 3, be honest with the woman in your life, but don't be whiny or needy. So this whole conversation about, men being emotionally healthy and what they're sharing with their emotions really comes to a head at that intersection of man talks to woman. This is really where the rubber meets the road. So to have a healthy relationship with a woman, yes, you're going to have to open up. A woman wants to know what's going on in her man's life, and that includes knowing emotionally how he's doing, how does he feel about things? So you do have to open up. Men often interpret this idea of women want emotional men as women want you to complain. They want to hear about every little issue you have throughout the day, and they really want to be your comforter and mommy and counselor and just be there to pat you on the back. But I'm here to tell you that that is not true, and you will lose her respect if you project that type of weakness. So the big key is to be in a healthy relationship and have a good balance with your emotions as a man really comes down to sharing the emotional side of you that she needs to know about. If it's a pointless conversation that she doesn't need to know about, or that it just doesn't matter and you're just blabbing your feelings, then don't talk about it, because you're just going to look whiny, and you are just being whiny. And again, the fruit of it is just not useful. That falls under the biblical category of complaining. So again, you don't need to give her constant emotional updates on your internal world. So, to maybe make this a little more practical, next time you get into that situation and you're wondering, should I talk about how I feel right now, or is this just complaining and being weak? Ask yourself, what's the point of me sharing this? Like, what's the fruit of that? And if there's some good fruit, then go for it. There's a time to do that with the woman in your life. And then there's many times as men, we just need to not go down that road because it's pointless. So for example, to really help drive this home, let's talk about work as a man. Okay, this is a big category. I've talked to a lot of women over the years who, have said, my boyfriend just complains about work all the time, or my husband, he's just miserable after work. And that's a source of contention, because the guy comes home and he just unloads emotionally about his day at home, comes home every day and complains about the troubles he's gone through. And that type of thing wears a woman out, because she can't be your counselor. She's your companion. She's not your emotional support system like, your psychologist, or again, your mom, or these other things. She's your companion. She's your side-by-side partner. And so there does come a time where you need to talk to her about things. And for example, when it comes to work, okay, let's say something's going on at work that's out of the ordinary, and it's causing you trouble, it's worrying you, it's making you angry, whatever that emotion is, and then you're bringing that home with you. Normally you don't, but now it's affecting you. You should tell her what's going on at work and talk about that problem so she understands what's up with your mood change, so she can understand what you're going through. But that's different than being the daily complainer who comes home and just, verbally vomits all over the woman in his life and needs her to be his punching bag because he feels like he just got beat up in the world, and now he needs to, unload on somebody else. 1 Peter 3:7, likewise, husbands, live with your wives in an understanding way, showing honor to the woman as the weaker vessel, since they are heirs with you of the grace of life, so that your prayers may not be hindered. So if she sees you as the weaker vessel, your relationship just isn't going to be healthy. And number 4, accept that seasons are going to be different than each other. There's going to be different seasons in your life. So accept that rather than constantly trying to change and make every season the same. From a psychological standpoint, when we're talking about emotional health, 2 really important words, most counseling that you get comes back to these 2 words, are acceptance and change. Every problem that you end up dealing with kind of comes back to those 2 things. Which one is it? You need to rightly identify what type of problem this is. Is it one of those problems that you can change, that there's something you can do to take control of your life and make things better? Then you got to do that. Or is this one of those things that's out of your control? It involves other people or circumstances that you have nothing to do with, or that you just can't control. Then the solution is acceptance. And both of those are powerful. They can bring a lot of emotional stability to your life. So sometimes, your work is going to be amazing. It's going to be great. And other times it's going to be a grind. Sometimes your friendships are going to be really satisfying. And other times they're going to be annoying and just problems that you're like, man, what are we doing? What's going on? We're just friends. What's this, all this drama for? There's going to be those seasons too. And, the woman in your life, sometimes it's all going to make sense. And then at other times, it's just going to be a big mystery to you. And again, if there's something you can change, then go for it, change it. But if this is just one of those things you need to accept and go through, then accept it, go through it without crying, complaining, because as you do that, as you go through this season you don't like, and you never accept it, and you're constantly fighting it and complaining and trying to change it even though you can't, and there's always a emotional outburst because you don't like what's happening, then you're losing your man card. You're being overly emotional. You're not having that strength and endurance that we need as Christian men. As 1 Corinthians 16:13-14 says, be watchful, stand firm in the faith, act like men, be strong. Let all that you do be done in love. So like I said, if you want to learn more about emotional health, mental health, and keep having this conversation with me as I keep learning more and as we study the Bible together about these topics, I'd love for you to tap that subscribe button so we can keep meeting together. I'm Mark from applygodsword.com. Until next time, God bless.